It's all about personal accountability, right? So it's this finger, right? It's number one. It's paying attention to me and who am I and what do I have to offer without worrying about what everyone else is thinking out there, because it doesn't really matter. Someone needs to hear whatever messages you have, even if it's just one, right? One person hears something, changes the trajectory of their life, that changes so many paths and so many people and so many opportunities, right? So it's just one. So I'll call this finger the personal accountability finger, right? I'm responsible for sharing my gift. It doesn't matter who needs to hear it. It doesn't matter how it looks, how it unfolds, where it goes, what happens. It's not the outcome. It's the responsibility that I have as a human being to share my gift.
Welcome to Authentic Conversations.
I'm Susan.
And I am Amarelli. This is what happens when you have coffee before recording. With
I don't drink
milk.
coffee. It's just water for me. Like, it's water when the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, it's water.
Oh,
So
you're
you
so
drink
good.
your coffee, girl.
You're so good, Susan. I can't. If I don't have that cup of coffee, my day doesn't start.
There we go. So now they all know it's morning. So it's morning. Amarellis has had her coffee, and now today is going to start. So here we are,
Well,
Authentic Conversations.
you think it might be morning, but Amarelli doesn't wake up that early either, right, Susan?
No. Morning for Amarellis. It's the sun is in the sky. Oh,
It's only Amarelli's morning time.
yes. Susan's morning starts about like 6:20 has been my go time
Guys,
lately.
I love it. She's like, let's do training, and you're going to be training at 6 a.m. And I'm like, okay.
6 a.m. every morning.
You're going to wake
Discipline.
me up, right?
So the creativity in the early morning hours is really where it's at, right? Like, we have our epiphanies in the shower in the morning. We kind of set our intentions for the day in the morning. I hate to waste daylight hours because I feel like there's so much that you can observe and notice and be a part of when the sun is up, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can notice and observe and be a part of in the darkness too. But there's just something beautiful about like starting your day when the day begins. I don't know. That's me.
That's Susan. And so I am an evening girl. And my energy starts when the moon's coming out.
Oh, there we go. Full moon lately too. That's the other thing this week, right? Full strawberry moon. We got it all going on.
Yeah. And so I used to beat myself up about the fact that I was not a morning person, Susan.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I started realizing like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like I could work on changing my habits. I mean, I can get up to go to work. I just have to set 3 alarms. And I'm a very annoying roommate if you have me, because one of them will be in my bathroom to just get me there. It has gotten better. And it doesn't mean because I'm a mom and I have a baby crying that I'm like, ooh, awake. No, I'm still like very cranky and like just doing what I have to do with when I open. So I used to be like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I not?
Yeah. Be
Right.
something that you think that everyone else would expect to be right. And that's the whole piece. I mean, what a great segue, because the God's honest truth is like, what's right for you? What's your optimal? Like, where do you function best? How do you know how your system works? Like, we have rhythms, right? Our bodies, we did law rhythm a long time ago, but like, our bodies have rhythms, and the rhythm of our body is kind of like, paying attention to your peaks and your valleys. When do you need to slow down and restore? And when do you have the most output? So for me, it's the morning because that's my rhythm. Now, whether that's from training from really young or that's just innately who I am. I mean, I had 2 kids, one couldn't go past 7 a.m. no matter what it was. And the other one, was like, kind of dragging out of bed, by noon, like, and I'm like, wow, I don't get it, because I'm the 7 a.m. So that, that rhythm kind of matched my rhythm. But it's what's right for you. And this is where we get hung up. We believe that other people are judging us, and maybe they are judging us, but that's not our problem. It's their problem, because their judgment has no bearing on me knowing what's right for me, unless I give them my power.
Yeah, and when you start to just embrace who you are. So for me, it's the same thing. I mean, we homeschool, and I've had people come and stay over, and then all of a sudden be like, "Are your kids gonna get up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they'll get up when they're ready." I have one that wakes up earlier than the other. It's the same thing as me and my spouse. I'm the one that could stay in bed for a long time if I could, and he's the one that wakes up naturally early. And when I stopped comparing and beating myself up and realizing what happens in this house is what happens in this house,
And
first
you
of
have no
all.
idea what happens in anyone else's house. Where do you make the basis of comparison? From television, from, TV sitcoms,
Well,
from like,
yeah.
well, what do we know what happens in other people's
Well,
houses?
because like let's say for instance, mommy groups, right? Like you start talking and everyone is like, "Oh, my kid, I've been up since 5 in the morning," and I'm like, "God, I would not know what to do if my child wakes up at 5 in the morning." And so I would start feeling bad because I was like almost one of the only moms whose kids wakes up later, even when they were babies,
Right.
and or they went to bed later because that's the other outcome, right? So it's if your child goes to bed later. Some kids go to bed late, like you said, and they still wake up early, or that's just their natural rhythm. And so we to embrace the natural rhythm of who we are.
Yeah.
It took time for me to just allow myself to say it's okay because we keep looking at the grass is greener on the other side.
We're so used to the standard and structure of listening to the experts who tell us what's right. Wait, wait, wait. You're an expert in me? Wait, wait. So there's an expert out there who's an expert in what's right for me. No, no, they're generalities, right? So, so-called experts, gurus, leaders, uh, it's all suggestion. It's all suggestion, and for some people, that suggestion helps them create better boundaries. That's fine. What do I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either, but it's in moderation. It's interpretation. It's in your own awareness and understanding of who you are, what your family dynamic is, what you need. Yeah.
And it still trickles into my mind. Like whenever I think about, how we homeschool or what we're doing, I'm like, well, how do you teach? So here's my question. And how do you teach somebody to be productive? Like I'm very productive, but when I allow myself to rest, and for me, resting, we've talked about this other times, for me, wanting to be in bed or sleeping in made me feel like I was a lazy person. Like little Amaryllis would start talking and saying, you're not being productive right now. And even yesterday, I read a saying that says, you're going to have moments where you're super high energy, and then there's moments when you're not feeling that energy, and embrace both
Yes, because
without judgment, right?
they're both equally important. We talk about the restoration or the rest or the restorative nature of, creativity, right? You can't be creative 100% of the time. So, and being creative, in short spurts can be physically exhausting. So there's the restoration aspect of it. But how do you teach productivity? So I don't think, I think productivity is the outcome. Right, what you produce is the outcome. I think that you teach curiosity, you teach creativeness, you teach, inquiry, wanting to know more, seeking, so in order for someone to be productive, there has to be meaning to the task. So this is part of the problem with education these days, right? So it's like sit and get and regurgitate, and kids don't ever really understand when they're ever going to use trigonometry or Pythagorean theorem, or what I mean. It's like, well,
Hmm.
what, and some kids will use it in their professional lives, so it's about being exposed to it. But how can you make it relatable? How can you tie it into something that is interesting, that creates curiosity and creates, creative thinking and understanding to motivate someone to see it through. Does that
Absolutely.
make sense? Does
Oh
that make
yes.
sense?
It's a work in progress for me. I don't know about our audience, but okay, for instance, I'll give an example. We homeschool, so my kids want to buy things all the time. And one of the philosophies that I've learned from picking from everything, because I'm very much like, I have to de-school myself, because I also have been going through the journey of the few years that we've been doing this, to remind myself that the homeschooling aspect is not copying what happens in school.
That's right. And people have this really weird relationship with their own experiences that you're right, you have to unlearn. You
I
have to,
have to unlearn. So I'm still in the process of unlearning, because whenever I feel the energy, that I start getting very old school. I feel like my mom, and I'm starting to be like, you didn't do this and you didn't do this. And I have to like leave the space and remind myself that like this is my doubts about what I'm doing, because I'm judging myself. So with the work that we do, it has helped me. But for instance, my child, I said to them, okay, we are evers, and so we have our own business. And I know that by teaching by example is one of them.
mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh, I can also maybe have them open up a little store and make their own little money and see how that goes. Um, but then it kind of like goes up and down, right? Like they're like excited one minute, and then the next minute it's just like I'll come home and I'm like, hey, did you do the research? Did you post? Did you take pictures? And it's like, no. And I was starting to bug down on it. And then I was just like, well, I'm not making this fun for them.
Right.
Even when they only excited when something sells and then they want to use the money right away. But I have to let them also, I had to step back and just let them figure out if that's what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because you have a brilliant idea
Right.
doesn't mean that it resonates with them. And, they also, just may not be in the, in the right space now to understand and appreciate that, because, they're not necessarily seeing the gains, or when they see the gains, it's so short-lived that they can't remember where it came from.
So, how do we, as parents, as leaders, as teachers,
Mhm.
not push, but where's the
Or
boundaries? Like, where are we? How do we
yeah.
know that we're on the right path? Because we're adults, right? So, again, we're back to the judgment and thinking that they don't know anything and
You're
like they are their own
supposed
people.
to, there's a responsibility, there's
Are they going to be 30 years old and still on the PlayStation?
yeah, yeah. And I think that, I think that communication is the best way to evaluate what, the process. The process is best evaluated through communication. So, like even just sitting down with them and finding out what it is that they're resistant to about running their own little business. Right. I mean, I know high school kids who resell sneakers and, make $80,000 a year, and they're in high school. And it's like, what, where's that come from? That's not, necessarily mom and dad every day saying you have to post stuff, right? So motivation comes from, the moment when it starts to click. And we dabble in stuff all the time, even as adults, Amaryllis, this, we dabble in stuff, and we're intrigued by it, and we're curious about it, and we're interested in it, and then we get distracted, and then we come back to it, you know what I mean? And then eventually something, the switch flips, and it all starts to come together. Like, talk about human nature and weight loss journeys, right? We dabble in it, we drop a couple, then we get complacent and we feel like, we're okay, so then we go right back to the old habits, until something switches, until you make a decision to actually see it through the discomfort, or see it through the boring time, see it through the downtime. Not everything is all up all the time. It's not, you're not going to have 100 sales a day. So you enjoy and appreciate, but you stick through it. So, some of that is just that regulation of expectations tied to outcomes versus following the journey. And when I go back to saying communication, like communicate about the journey, you know, how are they feeling about it right now? What is it that they like about it? What is it that they don't like about it? How can they change their perception on what it is that they don't like about it? How can they find something to like in what they don't like? Because those are the threads, those are the lessons that they will return to when it comes, when they're in other challenging positions in life. How can I find something I like in this time that I don't like?
Absolutely, because even as adults, we end up in a job that we think we're going to love, a
Yeah, it's
career,
okay.
or we go to school and we study something and then we end up doing something else.
And you can't love every aspect of everything,
Hmm.
right? So you have to find things you love in, in the overall. And I think, we don't hate the jobs. We might, like there's aspects of the jobs we don't like. We just allow them to overshadow all of the other things that are good and growing. It's like when the weeds take over the garden,
Right.
right? And you got to dig for the vegetables. You're like, I know I planted cucumbers in here somewhere, right? And there they are. And there they are, but I couldn't see them through the weeds. So I had two choices. I could walk away and assume that it was, all a failure, or I could continue to look for the fruits of my labor, or in this case, the vegetables of my labor.
Okay. So I have one more question for the day.
Okay. I'm ready. Wait. Okay. Oh, I'm ready. Maybe.
Okay. So let's say, for instance, that you realize, like, why am I such a good hard worker when it comes to others? Like, if I go to work, I'm so good. Like, I know I gotta do this job. I know I gotta get this done. I go on to be an overachiever or do everything. But this is not my company, right? So then I have this great idea for myself. And then I start my own project, but I don't put the right amount of time or energy.
So much more effort goes into the external validation and recognition than to the internal knowing. And that's really what happens, right? We want to make sure that we know that we're valuable. So we put it all out there in a place where it can be validated. When we're doing our own work, it's, we don't validate ourselves nearly enough, so we're super critical of ourselves. But when it comes to doing the work in the spotlight of others, or in the, in the viewpoint of others, the vantage point, the periphery of others, we want them to see how valuable we are, because the recognition, the external recognition of our value makes us feel safe. And when we're doing work on our own, and I feel this all the time, it's kind of the imposter syndrome, right? When we're doing the work on our own, we're like, who am I to think that, I know this, or who am I to think that anyone cares about this, or who am I to think that, this is important? Because we need to continue to remind ourselves that we have a gift, and that what we do is important, and that, we each have some sort of creative piece of ourselves that, that wants to unleash, that wants to be seen, but it's terrifying.
I mean, we just went over, we talked about the strawberry moon, another new full moon. I love the moon, I love my crystals, and the energy that I feel during that time. And so, even in the fact that we talk about the work, you think that this would be easy for us, but it's not. And so, I've been pushing myself. We are now on TikTok, and we've been putting some of our authentic conversations on TikTok. So I challenged myself and I said, okay, so if I would do something by myself, what can I talk about? So I decided to pick one of my favorite books, Creative Visualization. And I'm gonna I already put out the first video, and I mean, how many times was I gonna edit this thing?
Yeah.
And so I now I know that I'm always going to start trying to edit it and try
No,
to make
you
it
have to,
right.
there has to be a trigger point where it's authentic. What are we talking about? It's authentic conversations, right? So there's got to be the trigger point where it's authentic, and you can't continue to, because you will judge it and you will micromanage it. I will tell you the stuff that I release or that we release, I don't look at first. I just, it's got to go as it is,
Mhm.
because we're human. And what is this ideal of perfection? I mean, some of the genuine qualities are, in the stumbles, or, I mean, this is what we teach.
Yeah. So and you talked about this on Thursday night's meditation, and I was like, oh my God, okay, there she goes. Um, because I think this was Thursday, so I think Wednesday I put up the video and I went to research a little bit about the writer of the book Creative Visualization, and I found this video about her, and she's talking about how this beautiful, simple book started in her house and how she was doing this, and then she had sent out a letter and told people in her group that she was going, if they sent $5, she was going to send them a copy of this book, right? And so then she's all excited. She starts writing all the tools, basically a little bit of what the tools that she uses for creative visualization. And then all of a sudden, doubt creeps in,
Oh,
and she starts doubting herself about, who am I? Why am I writing this? Who do I think I am to be even sharing these ideas? There's other teachers that are better than me. So she stops writing the book. And I'm like listening to the story while I myself am judging myself about, like, who am I? How many more TikTokers need another video about anything or guidance or advice? Like,
right.
why do we have authentic conversation? So I'm like, she went through this? No way. So I'm listening. And so they ask her, well, what happened? And she goes, well, I started writing back to people saying, hey, the book is not done. It's taking longer than I thought. I can send you your money back. And people were like, no,
We'll
we're going
wait.
to wait till the book is done. So then she goes back to, okay, I opened my big mouth and now I said I was going to do this book.
Well, but you had, it's all about personal accountability, right? So it's this finger, right? It's number one. It's paying attention to me, and who am I, and what do I have to offer, without worrying about what everyone else is thinking out there, because it doesn't really matter. Someone needs to hear whatever messages you have, even if it's just one, right? One person hears something, changes the trajectory of their life, that changes so many paths and so many people and so many opportunities, right? So it's just one. So I'll call this finger the personal accountability finger, right? I'm responsible for sharing my gift. And I'm, doesn't matter who needs to hear it. It doesn't matter how it looks, how it unfolds, where it goes, what happens. It's not the outcome. It's the responsibility that I have as a human being to share my gift. Huh. I'm responsible. And if I don't do that, and you don't do that, and the people who are listening don't do that, then the world misses out on the offering of that individual. Accountability, responsibility, it all falls back to me. And if one person, myself included, has a moment or shifts or changes as a result, mission accomplished.
Okay, Susan, go through all 5 of them, please.
Oh, okay, so yeah, so there are 5. Didn't we just do this? I don't know. We did
I don't
whatever.
know, but we're doing it
Whatever.
again because I need
Anyway,
it. I need a
so
reminder of it. Okay,
so
please.
so this is the core of yourself. This is the very center of who you are, right? And so we start with here, right? Who you surround yourself, the people, the thoughts, what your input is, right, determines how high you rise, right? So people, places, thoughts all help lift us up, right? This is personal accountability, right? It's me, not what everyone else thinks or what everyone else does, or what anyone else cares about. I have to notice and recognize what's right for me and be responsible and accountable for my stuff. This one will go like this. I mean, I could, but this is attitude. Attitude. So the positive attitude, right, also helps contribute to the altitude. We want to grow here. We want to grow. The ring finger is commitment. It's commitment. Who are you committed to? Better be you first, right? Your commitment to you, to the universe, and to making your world a better place. The commitment. And how does all this happen? It's all the fine details. It's all the little moments, right? We all think we have to have these like big things occur in order for life to have value. Every little moment, every breath you take, I think there's a song. Started singing it in my head, but every breath you take, every little moment, right, contributes to that, contributes to the whole. And here we are. And here we are. So we're responsible for our surroundings and our thoughts. We're responsible for our personal accountability. We're responsible for the attitude that we bring to things. We're responsible for our commitment. And we should be paying attention to all the little things that nudge us into the whole thing. The whole thing. It's all right here in the palm of your hand. Everything you need. Everything you need to know. Everything you need. It's all right here. So why not? Why not? Right? You've got your thumb, your pointer finger. I forgot some of this is audio, right? So your thumb is what is the uplift, the thumbs up, the pointer finger is the accountability, the middle finger is the attitude, the ring finger is the commitment, and the pinky is all the pieces, all the experiences, all the details.
Sorry, I'm so emotional right now, but
It's okay. I forgot we were audio only on some of our platforms. I'm like, oh, I just showed them the hand. Wait, no, I have to draw the hand.
we're also a podcast.
We are. Our podcast is audio format only. If you want to see the hand, you go to YouTube. If you want to hear the hand, you go to Apple or Spotify.
um,
What are you feeling, Amaryllis, or what do you want to share?
I want to share who I am.
And that is exactly what you're doing.
I had a beautiful conversation with somebody the other day, and I just was, I don't even know this person from a hole in the wall, and she just started sharing like always.
Mm-hmm. Energy attracts.
And I came home and I was like, she's like, how do you know these things? Like, how do you know what to say? Like, and I made her realize by asking her a question, something that she thought she had already worked on. Um, and she said, well, and so I've been verbalizing, because this is what we talk about, right? Creative visualization, putting it out there, not judging yourself, that eventually my goal is to be a life coach. And so I said it, and then she goes, well, how much do you charge? And then I'm like, I can't charge you. Because I
No,
don't feel
you
like I have
know
the
your worth.
qualifications.
What's the qualification? You have experience.
So
We're
of
going to
course
continue. We're going
I
to
said
continue to
no.
figure it. Yes.
And
Yes.
I said, oh, not yet. I'm not like, I'm still studying with my mentor, which is you. And, I said, oh, I have a show. Here's my YouTube channel. And I said, this is just something I love. It's like a gift. I don't know. I said, I don't even know. I just hold space. And she's like, yeah, but you said things that I needed to hear. She's like, I haven't even gone to therapy. And I came home and I'm just like, this is what I want to put out, but
So it's the alignment, and there is no but. It's being patient, and things are already in the works and unfolding. And, we just have to trust that. We have to trust that we have everything we need, and that, every experience has gifted us something to bring us to a point where we know, it's that leap of faith.
Yeah, the
It's
light
the
in me will
trust.
light the light in you, and that we're one, and that we, like you said, it's one conversation. One person that listens to this, one person that watches our YouTube channel. She was so funny. She's like, "Oh, I can show you how to grow your channel," and I'm like, "I'm not into it for growing the channel."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna put my mind into, yeah, we could do marketing, we could do more about it, right? But if that's not where we are right now, this is where we are right now. It's just having these conversations. It's just
Yep.
putting the content out there and then working on ourselves, which is what we're doing.
It's always content. We're all, beautiful works of art at every stage of development.
So the whole week has been your meditation, and the next day was again. We are, we have a gift. We are breathing, we are here. And just by one person, or just by giving ourselves that moment of being at the meditation class, centering ourselves, realigning what makes you happy, what makes you you.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so another message.
Yeah. And it's perfect. It's just about paying attention. It's really just about paying attention, and it's all coming together. There's nothing that you have to force or, make happen. It's really just, staying true to yourself and allowing things to unfold. It's awesome. Amaryllis, thank you so much for sharing that. And, thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you. Love it.
I'm a hot mess, guys. Sorry. I don't have napkins.
All right. Well, so next week, tune in next week for the next hot mess. It's great. It's authentic. It's what it's supposed to be. We're all hot messes. Oh,
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us.
thank you.
And please follow us, do all the crazy things you have to do for the algorithm to work. Hit the
Yes.
bell, follow.
Meditations are on Thursday nights at
Thursday.
8:30 Eastern time. If you're interested, susanjcooney@gmail.com. Hey, just throw me an email.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thanks.
Susan.